there, Julia here, and it's been a while since my last reading journal check-in, and I just feel like this is just going to be a little bit different than my previous journal flip-throughs. We are going to talk about what I read in 2024 as we flip through my reading journal spreads for the year. So this is my reading journal. This is by Odyssey Notebooks. It's an A5 size with 160 GSM paper. I have cut out quite a bit of this notebook because I'm just finished with it, but it does house my 2023 and 2024 reading journal spreads. I have a flip through of the first section of this notebook, the 2023 setup and spreads. I'll leave those linked up for you either up here or in the description or both. But definitely take a look if you love more elaborate spreads when it comes to reading journal. In 2024 though, I spent less time reading. I was just really into my fountain pen and ink hobby, and so that took up a little more time. Also, I was really into related podcasts and the Eras Tour grainy live streams, and that just cut into some of the time that I would typically spend listening to audiobooks or reading physical books, etc. So with that being said, the spreads are more minimal. And I just found that easier to maintain over the year, and it really was a factor in why I even have spreads to show you for 2024. So the first spread for 2024 reading is this book bracket. So I really enjoyed this setup, and I actually did something similar in my reading journal for this year. But every month I would pick a favorite read, and for this first round I would just highlight what the winner was, and then those would square off, and then these three would square off to get to my favorite read of the year. So I really enjoy how that turned out. And then if you flip over, this is like a continuation of this. These two square off and you get to my favorite book of the year, which was Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. I gave it 5 stars. My goal for 2024 was to have 6 5-star reads, and I've only had 3. I didn't want to put a number on how many books I read, so I just wanted to be a little bit more picky with the content, I guess. Like if I didn't like something, I didn't want to feel like I had to stick it out, so I would DNF it, and that's probably why my book count is a little low for me, I guess, compared to the last couple of years. And this isn't even right. Goodreads did me wrong. I actually read 19 books in 2024, but I just didn't want to go back and change this because it looks so cute. I might do just little white squares and then fill in the right numbers here. And then we get into the 2024 reading spreads. I try to keep this pretty simple, just printing the book covers and numbering which book of the year it was, give a star rating, the year that it was published, the number of pages, when I started reading, when I finished, and some of the genres here. And just write a little bit of my thoughts, maybe some quotes. So yeah, as we flip through this, I will attempt to remember what these books are about. I am not a booktuber by any means, and my media memory sucks, but I'm just gonna do what I can here. Look it up if anything looks interesting. But I do remember The Secret Lives of Church Ladies being just a really refreshing start to the year. I listened to the audiobook, and I just remember it feeling really raw, just so Black in a way that I love and that felt familiar. It had some LGBT rep and was just really thoughtful throughout, and it felt like I was getting the good gossip, the good tea on the people of the neighborhood. So I really enjoyed this one. My Dark Vanessa was pretty difficult to read, but it was a good one. In the next two, we have Babel by R.F. Kuang, which was really cool. Very dark academia, dealt a lot with using language and the origin of words as the magic system, like as a power, which I thought was really cool. I'm actually starting this year off with an R.F. Kuang book as well, The Poppy War, finally reading that, and I've been enjoying it so much. And then we have Bathhouse, which I I don't remember much about. I just know that it was a little bit of a hot mess. Oh, I'm saying here too, because I did listen to this one in an audiobook, that I didn't really love the narrators. This book started off pretty sexual, so I wasn't quite sure exactly where we were going. Every time I was trying to predict something, the plot threw me for a loop. It wasn't the deepest or most literary novel ever, but it was a fun time. Yeah, one of the characters is just a hot ass mess and just makes the worst mistakes ever. So that is Bathhouse. I wish my memory would give me back some of these short stories, because I gave this short story collection 5 stars as a collection, but I did go through every short story and write a little paragraph about each one and rated each one. But yeah, if you like really creepy kind of WTF short stories, I think this is a good one. I recommend this one, even though I hardly remember anything. Loved the Black Mirror vibes. So we have our first DNF that I documented here. You'll see a few of these, and I think that there's one that I didn't even put in here just because by the end of the year I was like, I'm over it. So The Employees, a workplace novel, and I DNF'd at 30%, so I definitely gave it a shot. And it says I was just confused, intrigued enough to get about 30% through, but I just wasn't into it enough to keep going. One in a Millennial was really fun. I listened to this one as well and just felt like I related to it quite a bit. It felt more like a podcast about the millennial experience than a book. So that I really enjoyed, because like I said earlier, I was just really into podcasts in 2024. And it says the more feminist passages brought me to tears, and she for sure was hitting on things that still ring true today. A DNF that I may return to is Nettle and Bone. I DNF'd at 12%. It says I enjoyed the atmosphere, very Nightmare Before Christmas. The story was interesting in the beginning, but I just don't think that I was in the mood for this one at the time, but sounds like it would be a good spooky season read or something a little more cozy. Cultish was the next one, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I think cults and the world of cults and the strategy behind cults is super fascinating. So I thought I'd give this one a try. I thought it was pretty good. I did learn some things, but I do wish it was a little more educational as far as some of the language that's used and tactics that are used around cults. But also love this cover. Here's another DNF that I DNF'd almost halfway through, and it just says I tried, but it was such a chore to get through. There were 3 different timelines. This just was not it, and I was only into the 2012, the middle timeline, and everything else was really just hard to follow. The next one was Big Swiss. I remember having a lot of fun with this one. I just thought it was, laugh out loud funny at some points, and it was really just crude and it felt really fresh. I said the described looks of the people and living conditions also felt new and fresh. Even though there was dark humor and sarcasm, there were a lot of layers, and I appreciated the way the trauma, especially the generational and passed on trauma, was represented here. And then I start bringing back a little bit of doodling here. This is a scene from I Who Have Never Known Men, which looking back, in retrospect, I probably would give this a 4 because I still do think about this book. It's very dystopian, but serious, slow sci-fi. I say if I had to describe this book in one word, I'd go with bleak. This book was very captivating in the beginning, just enough information and detail to be intriguing. Once the story took a different survivalist tone, I started to slightly feel differently. The story was still intriguing. I feverishly wanted to know what was going to happen next. The world descriptions were so good, so disturbing. Yeah, this is a good one. The 10th book was Little Eyes. This one just had a really neat premise. Like, you had these little toys, and either you could buy the toy and have a person, you know, on the inside controlling and watching through this little stuffed animal, or you can elect to be the stuffed animal and kind of watch someone's life and kind of get them through whatever it is that they needed this little pet for. So the premise was just really on point, and, you know, things go wrong from there, but I just don't think the story itself lived up to how good the premise was. Then we get a surprise banger. This is Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. And I just thought this one was really fun and cute, and I kind of just flew through it. So many great quotes. It's like a little young adult romance, but it was very appropriate, but also didn't feel like a young adult book. I don't know. I just thought it was cute. Then we have Natural Beauty, which I gave 3 stars. And I say this is a very interesting, moody, dark read. I absolutely love the descriptions of music and playing the piano early on in the novel, and I was definitely wanting that care with words throughout. So it started off really strong, and then as it went, it kind of lost me a little bit here and there. It would pull me back in, and it never really lost me entirely. And I say here, I do wish some of the characters, the secondary characters, were a lot more fleshed out, because they all had a very flat quality to them. Intentional? Could be, because this is talking about beauty and kind of this dark way to achieve this kind of flat standard. But even with that, I felt like it didn't make the book as impactful. We have a DNF for Brutes. I DNF'd at 25%. Started off so promising, and then it was giving like 90s vibes. Bunny by Mona Awad, which I love that book, but it was giving me that vibes, and then it just quickly got pretty boring. Legends and Lattes, you can see I was again missing some of that decorative flair, so I started doing a little bit of that. Legends and Lattes was pretty good, wholesome. I love the descriptions of smells and food, and it just felt really cozy. And I said it was just a perfect low stakes read. Then I followed that up with What My Bones Know by Stephanie Fu. I said that this one had me in tears a few times, and I was able to relate more than I would like to. But I did learn so much about mental health, complex PTSD, and how generational trauma physically affects you. I love the sentiment of the journey never being over, but just being aware, feeling the feelings, and let them pass. I have a quote down here. Maybe I had not really been broken this whole time. Maybe I had been a human, flawed and still growing, but full of light nonetheless. Then I read There's No Way I'd Die First by Lisa Springer. The cover got me on this because it's giving like campy slasher movie, and that's what this was going for. It was a very Black-centric teen slasher book. I wish it wasn't. I don't know. It was just a little bit ridiculous. I did fly through it. I did like the references to horror film in general. The slasher is a clown, and I don't know, I just kept thinking that this whole scenario was going to be a hoax, or that, surprise, these people aren't really dead. But yeah, it was just so ridiculous. But if you like a campy good time, there you go. Okay, favorite book of the year here, Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. And look at me, I did a little synopsis here. Lillian, a young woman, reluctantly takes a job caring for her former boarding school friend's twin stepchildren. The catch? The children spontaneously combust whenever they get upset. As Lillian navigates the challenges of keeping the kids safe and calm, she forms an unexpected bond with them, discovering new depths of love and responsibility in the process. And yeah, this was so good. I did not think I was going to love this book so much because the premise is a little bit ridiculous. But with that, the descriptions, the character relationships, the humor, it was just all so realistic that even the fact that the kids would catch on fire felt real. And I do recommend the audiobook for this because the narrator is so good. And I put, it was funny but wholesome. The kids were adorable. The side characters felt fleshed out and different from one another. I thought the background info that was provided was perfect and just helped the full picture of the novel, the characters' motivations, and just the overall comprehension. An unexpected new favorite. So good. And then I started the Throne of Glass series. I like this quite a bit. It did take me a very long time to get through just because of circumstances. And I do plan on continuing this slowly, but I enjoyed it. I like the Court of Thorns and Roses series, and so I just needed some more Sarah J. Maas in my life. The Husbands. This one was a little bit ridiculous too, but I was like, maybe I enjoy books that are a little bit ridiculous in the premise, but it somehow seems realistic. I feel like I read this because I was looking for something like Nothing to See Here. The synopsis is ridiculous. Lauren comes home from a night of drinking to a husband she's never met or seen before. He goes up in the attic, comes down, and it's another guy. It's another husband, rinse and repeat lots of times. So yeah, really love the premise. The possibilities are just wild and nearly endless. It started off so promising and witty, but after a while, it just felt like we were not going anywhere. And I said the ending was lame. I just wish it was more. And then you can see we're getting a little weird because of me cutting out the last chunk of pages and I kind of overcut a little bit. So just bear with me here. The last book I read in 2024 was One of a Kind by Nicola Yoon as well. And this was an adult book from her. Earlier in the year, I read a YA book. This might have been her first adult. But again, crazy premise, a Black utopia. So many pros when it comes to life in America, but is that sentiment too naive? What can go wrong? This is a pretty extreme version of that. It is like a thriller mystery along the lines of like Get Out, but it was pretty predictable and the characters kind of felt very stereotypical, which I didn't love, but also very terrifying. Especially the end was so good. Like the pacing, I just kept going. So yeah, this one was a little bit hard to rate and figure out since the ending was so crazy and just the idea of it is just so wild. But I ended up giving it 3 stars just because of the characters and some things just feeling very stereotypical. And then back here, I still have my little library of books that I need to migrate over to something. But these are just my book covers that I have printed out on sticker paper. And then this is my long-term collections journal by Shop ARL. And I have just some long-term collections in here. And with that, I have a full look at all the books that I read in 2024. The book covers, the little line down the left side is the format that I read the book in, so physical, ebook, or audiobook. You can see that even though I said that I was really in the podcast and all that, most books that I read were in audio format. And then I have my little rating stickers here. These are available in my shop that I will link down below, but you get like a ton. Do I have any in here? No, I've moved them, but you get a ton. And I love just like sticking these down for the ratings. And I always like how this looks after the fact. Yes, I do wish that this whole page was filled with books, but it's fine. That is the reading year that I had. I recently moved over to Storygraph, and I'll link below if you want to see what I'm reading at any given time, but I'm always open to recommendations in the comments. Definitely leave them down below. If you want to see what I'm doing for 2025 in regards to reading and a bunch of other journaling and planning, check out my 2025 journal and planner lineup. I'll leave it for you here. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.